like the Zebra.
Thank you.
Okay, nice to meet you. Grab some wine, take it home. Hey, what's going on? It's DK Smith coming to you live from Chicago. We're getting ready to do our monthly Pinot and Profits, where we talk about finance, drink some Pinot Noir, hors d'oeuvres, a little networking. Everybody meet some good people. Today's topic is going to be on businesses, business formation, IPOs, and differentiating between public and private businesses and how you can make money doing both, especially in this upcoming recession we're about to get into. So tune in and I'll see you up there.
I know we're starting a little late, but apparently there's a multitude of events going on in Chicago, clearly because I'm in and out of town. I never know what's happening here, so don't judge me.
You and me both.
I know, right? So for those of you guys who we're meeting for the first time, my name is Shawnee Smith. I'm a double board certified physician in internal medicine and critical care. And then this is my wonderful partner who I say is like my brother from another mother. I love you. Whose name is DK Smith.
Yep.
So this is our third month doing this, and when DK and I met, what we both talked about as he was transitioning out of BCG was that we were really tired of the fact that people of color have not been exposed to the concept of generational wealth and how to create that. And that most of us in our current career paths, we are going to be the ones that lay the foundations for our families in creating that wealth. Now, it's not a position that we chose to take on per se, but we're clearly in that position. And so how do we educate ourselves so that we can grow our own wealth and kind of go from there? For those of you all that are new to this, we are not selling you crap, okay? I think a lot of us, especially those of us who are physicians in the room, have gone to financial meetings and then someone does this really nice presentation and we get a nice dinner and we get a glass of wine or we get some hors d'oeuvres and then they're like, give us your email address, and then it becomes you get barraged with emails and phone calls and it's like, so when are you setting up your introductory meeting so we can do this? And that's not what this is about. This is about educating you all so that you all can do what you need to do for yourselves, for your family. Now, if there's something else that you want to talk about offline, we're fine with doing that, but this is not a chance for us to sell you a service. This is an educational thing that we do out of the goodness of our own heart. Hallelujah, praise Jesus. All right, so last month, we talked about what risk was, because a lot of us didn't even understand what the concept of risk is. When people talk to you from a financial background, they say, so what's your risk? And do you understand what portfolio diversification is? So we touched on that last week. This week, we're going to talk about really what is a company? What does it mean when a company is public versus private? What does it mean when a company is an IPO? What does IPO stand for? Because I know not everybody knows. I mean, I'm just keeping it 100. Love y'all, mean it. But really that understanding so that then we can start transitioning into stocks, bonds. What does this all mean so that we understand how to grow our own wealth? So, because he's the expert and I'm just here as with the wine. I'm gonna let you take it away.
Yeah, for sure. Like Shawnee mentioned, I'm DK Smith. My background's in finance. I'm an attorney. Worked on Wall Street for about a year and a half, then worked at BCG as Boston Consulting Group as a management consultant, advising Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies on like billion-dollar deals, basically. Sitting next to CEOs, helping them spend billions of dollars and teaching them where it should go. So. Why not use the same skills and teach my people?
Right.
So that's kind of what I do. We do this once a month, every third or fourth Friday, something like that. And hopefully we can keep this going. And this is meant to be interactive, right? So it's not just, I don't want to sit here and listen to myself talk. I don't really like to listen to myself talk.
It's definitely
I'm not talking at you guys. This is more so, what do you all want to know? Like, what questions do you have that you've been either afraid to ask or don't know, to ask or don't know who to ask? If I don't know the answer, I know someone that does, right? And so I can always follow up with you. Again, I'm not going to ask for your email. I don't know. This is just kind of just for the benefit for everyone, so they can know, how to. Again, what's an IPO? What's a public company? What's a private company? How does that work? my cousin wants to start a company. He wants me to give him $1,000. What's that mean? And so things like that. So I want everyone, since you all have that sort of frame in your mind, start thinking of questions right now that you have, and please ask me anything. Like, this is kind of your opportunity to get some this pro bono legal. I have a disclaimer. Ask an attorney. I've given the disclaimer out there.
It's all pro bono.
But
hiring him.
Yeah, I'll have, exactly. Yeah, disclaimer out there. but this is if I can go as deep and on any subject as you all want, and please let me know if I'm talking over heads, because I've done that before. So.
We have to sometimes bring DK down because DK will get on a roll and it's like, wait. We don't do that.
Please interrupt me, seriously.
For a long time.
Yeah.
No.
This is like family. This is a safe space. Whatever. For finance. It's just so we all are in our careers are making money and building wealth, and we are that quote unquote talented 10th, right? And so it's our responsibility to know what to do with that money once we make it, and how to build it for our kids, grandkids, and great grandkids. So, first question, yes, please.
So just right off the bat,
yes,
talking to somebody about it, what would be the benefits, pros and cons of having an LLC versus a corporation if you're setting up a business?
And then there are different types of corporations too. You've got your SCorp and your C-Corp.
Right, yeah. So just in general, because we're always thinking, I got to get an LLC. And then I had someone say, well, no, actually you want to get a corporation because you can get a trust and you can protect yourself. If you get sued, you can get more protections for a corporation. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so I'll unpack that a little bit, right? So the question is LLC versus corporation, right? It's a pretty common question, and you can Google that and no one will give you a straight answer.
No.
I'll start with giving you the most legally correct answer is it depends. So I'll give you the pros and cons for both, right? So an LLC, what that means is it's a limited liability corporation, right? And so that's typically for it's only for private companies. You can't go public as an LLC. It does protect you, your downside risk, your liabilities, and it's pretty. I say it's pretty good entity. It's better than a sole proprietorship, that doesn't really allow you much protections. What your friend was probably saying is if you have a corporation versus an LLC, you have better tax treatment in a corporation, right? Because you save on self-employment tax. I believe self-employment tax is 15.3%.
Yes.
And
sorry, I just paid them.
For your LLC, and so if you don't do one of two things, right? You can either one, check the box and become an S corporation, which means that you are an LLC but you're taxed like a corporation, or number two, you just start a C corporation. And then you're probably wondering, okay, well, what the hell's the difference between an S and a C? So an S corporation is limited insofar as you can only have up to 100 members, like stockholders, in an S corp. And a C corp, you can have infinity, as many as you want, right? So they offer you the same levels of protection. It's really the same tax treatment, but if you plan to go public, a Delaware C corp is pretty much kind of standard. Every investor wants that. Every VC wants that. That's kind of, but if you're a smaller entity, it's just for you. Make the LLC, have your accountant check the box, and and tax you as a corporation. You'll save that 15.3% self-employment tax, and you can kind of game the system by allowing yourself a certain amount of dividends and a certain amount of wages and salaries that are tax deductible.
So in terms of like the S Corp and the C Corp, it really depends on what is your potential projected growth for your corporation that you are building. So if you are in my case, so I do primarily locums work, so I'm an independent contractor. Something like an LLC or an S corporation would make more sense because I'm literally only doing one thing. It's just me. I'm not looking to potentially hire people. I'm not looking for growth. I'm not trying to create my own locums company. Let's say, like, prime example, one of our colleagues, Stephanie Freeman, who is locums doc extraordinaire. But say Stephanie is looking at creating her own locums company. It would make more sense if she formed a C corporation, like a Comp Health, like a Weatherby, like a Floyd Lee Locums.
Yeah, you get a little more flexibility, and with this new tax plan that Trump rolled out last year, it's a little more favorable. Before the tax rate or the new tax act, the corporate tax was 35%. Now it's 21%. So and if you're an LLC, I believe if you're not in the service industry, so like if you're not a doctor, a lawyer, you're just gonna have an LLC, you get a 20% tax break. So they kind of encourage you to form a company. But if you're in the service industry and you make over, I believe it's like $225,000 for that year, you don't get that 20%. so that's why it kind of makes more sense for you to SCorp. Exactly. Yeah. Now, unless you want to raise, if you have like an idea, some technology, and you want to raise a ton of money and go out and get some venture capital money and investors, they will probably want to see a Delaware C Corp. And you can always change. It's not like it's super expensive, but it does cost money to change. But you're not wedded to one or the other. You can always go somewhere. Yeah.
I was reading something that said that you had to, I just formed an LLC, but it said that I had 75 days to choose to be taxed as an S-Corp. Is that accurate?
Which state did you form it in? Because each state is different. Illinois. Yeah. So when's the end of your tax year?
So I just did it a month ago.
And they said you have 75 days. Yeah, so I
was just reading that on some other site. It was like, okay, 75 days to...
It depends on the state, right? Because they don't want you gaming the system early. They want you to say, okay, let's see how much money I think I'm going to make. They want you to say, no, how much money, early on do you project you're going to make? Either way, if you're making money with that LLC, you probably do want to be an S-Corp because you're going to save on that self-employment tax. And that's just it will save you 15%, which adds up. You know what I mean?
It does.
And another thing too. So this is like a natural next question for the corporations. Have you all ever heard of anything called the double taxation, or everyone's kind of scared of double tax for C corps? Anyone ever heard of that? No. So if you start Googling, okay, I want to form a corporation, you're going to get a lot of things that say, oh, corporations are bad because they're subject to something called double taxation, which can be true maybe, right? So if you have $1 million, or you make $1 million 1 year, and you have a C corp, right? If you have, let's say, $600,000 worth of expenses, you going out to eat, you're going on trips, and it's part of your business and whatnot, and so now you have a quote unquote profit of $400,000, right? Now you can pay yourself a dividend, and you have a salary. Say you pay yourself $200,000 in a salary, right? And that's now you have $200,000 of profit, right? And like I mentioned before, the tax rate is 21%. So you will get taxed on that 21% profit. But you can take a dividend, and get taxed at the long-term capital gains rate, which is 15% on some of that money. And the first $30,000 is not even taxed. I think it's first $39,800, something like that, is not even taxed on long-term capital gains. So it's ways for you to game it. So if you do that, say you take out $50,000 as a dividend for yourself, become a bonus. Now you have $150,000 left. You get taxed at 21%. And what is that? Let's go for simplicity, is at $30,000. So you have $120,000 left over in something called retained earnings for the next year. Now that money is just sitting there. It doesn't get taxed again unless you touch it. And you don't have to ever touch it. You can just sit there. And the C Corp can have its own portfolio, and you just keep stacking money, never touching it. And once that money keeps going to 10 years later, now you got a couple $1 million, you can go to a bank and say, hey, listen, I want to take it. My daughter, my son, my nephew, my niece going to college. I want to take a loan against this $3 million I haven't touched it. And it's just been getting 10-15% in the stock market. I want to take a loan on that, and you guys can hold it as collateral, whatever it is. And now you have a 4% loan on $3 million you never paid taxes on ever, personally. That's how you can get it. That's my next question.
Because I have an SC and then an LLC for prior business I had, but the SC is for my own. I used to do locums. Now, and reading some of the white coat investor stuff, that I kind of read a lot. Just try to get us that information. Saying that, obviously, you pay yourself.
Yeah, you pay
whatever, just like you were speaking of. But I'm thinking, well, if I want to pay myself, I don't know, something lowballing, because I don't want to necessarily do. How low can you really go before it's flagged? I know they say that, the typical earnings from a physician, but
exactly.
doing locums is a lot more than what we would get as employed doctors anyway. So I'm definitely not trying to tell them or be taxed on what
you would make your own.
getting.
Right. And it's really about what you can justify to the IRS, right? Now, if you're making, if you were to make, if the average doctor makes $300,000 and you pay yourself 30 grand, red flag. Well, if you pay yourself like 120, 150, that something, that's. So I think that's not as much, of a red flag.
And I was going to ask that, so you can then just go ahead and stack that and then let that attorney.
And get taxes at corporate rate. Don't have to touch it, and it's just, because now you can actually use that money as expenses, and you can make your lifestyle is an expense, right? So now you have an extra $100,000 or whatever, and you just go all the dinners you want, and don't use that because that goes against your profitability every time you. And so it's all about, like, we call it getting to zero, because I heard some. There was some. I think I tell you the story. I was at a lounge, and some older gentleman was like, I paid the most taxes this year ever in life, and that's a sign. He was giving some advice to some younger people, and I was just listening, like, it's not a good thing. You need a better accountant.
Like, don't tell nobody that.
Right. You don't brag on paying more taxes. Like, no, he's like, the more taxes you pay, the more money you make, and I'm getting richer and wealthier. I was just like, dang, bro, that's not correct. You do not have to pay. You do not want to pay the most taxes ever. You want to get that number as close to zero as possible. If that means someone has a foundation, right? Donate to your friend's foundation, because if you're not donating to the foundation, you're giving to the government. You know what I mean? So and that's kind of how, and that's how this works. So everyone should have a friend that has a nonprofit, at least one. Seriously.
Help me help you.
That's just being real. That's it. That's it. Another question? Yeah. Yes, please.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, come on, I love questions.
I guess I was trying to understand. So you're saying, I was trying to understand the whole process of keeping that money.
Keep it in. Yeah, keep it in. Yep. Okay. Yeah. That's fine.
I like how you said that.
$200,000. You have $200 left.
And now you pay payroll taxes on that, right? Yeah.
Payroll taxes for somebody else.
No, for you, because your corporation is paying you, so now you're paying your payroll and you pay yourself a 401k.
Got it.
Right, which you max that out.
All of that comes out of
So you're paying yourself, the 401k, and you pay payroll taxes and whatnot, and just Social Security, just like you would at a regular job, because this is your regular job as a as a C Corp or an S Corp. But now you have something called retained earnings. Whatever you don't pay yourself, whatever you don't take out in dividends, it just kind of the corporation earns it as a profit, and then the corporation pays taxes, which is 21%, which is way lower than any personal tax rate.
Exactly.
Right? And so now you roll that. And so say at the end, after all the taxes and everything, you have $100,000 left over. You just bank that, and if you touch it, you usually have to pay your 15% long-term capital gains, right, on whatever it is after $39,000. All right.
Okay.
So
that's where you said
if you don't touch it, it's just that. It's
What's
just
the
that.
maximum you can do per year?
As much as $100 trillion, you do whatever you want. because that's what like corporations do, right? So when you say, and this is kind of getting to the IPO thing, right? I'm kind of going backwards. When you say, you see headlines like, oh, Uber's not profitable. Right? How they're IPOing. WeWork's not profitable. All these companies that are IPOing, they haven't made money. They're losing $1 billion a year or $1.5 billion. You're probably like, how the hell are they on the stock market? Are you losing money, right? It's because it's the money they have. That means their retained earnings isn't a negative because they're borrowing money. So all the revenue from not just that pot, and other investors and bank loans, everything because.
Why would they have
Negative. So it's something called capital expenditure. So if you're a startup or a company, just like a baby, you need food to grow. Company's food is money. Right? It needs money to grow. So if you, let's just say we all in a company together, right? And we're all, I don't know, we sell Pinot Noir, and we're doing very well. and we all getting paid well, working hard and everything, and then we have so much demand, right? We have so much demand, and everyone wants wine, but we need money to buy more wine, right? Because we can't just grow the process. We got to go to South Africa, to Spain, to California to get our wine, and you need money. And so banks see this, say, okay, so now you have a clientele, a customer base, right? We know that you have contracts coming in. We will loan you money based on those contracts at a very low amount because we're all making money. So that's how, because they take the money from the banks and all the money they're making to keep buying more and more wine to sell. Exactly.
So they're banking on what their future income will be.
Right.
Looking at Uber, one that's very low. Uber actually very low overhead.
Absolutely not. Extremely high overhead.
Because they don't have any physical
people.
They have very few physical actual.
They have to pay their people.
People are making money they're making money before they actually give them money.
Right, but
they shouldn't have any negative.
So Uber, the little car share, that's just kind of that's a piece of their company. What they're doing, they're working on making it so they don't ever need people again. So all their money is going to R&D. So all their money is going into research and to cars and testing and buying facilities and office space. So they're taking that money, instead of buying wine, they're buying scientists and research, and that's where their money's going to, because they're thinking engineers, 5 to 10 years from now, when no one is going to be driving, they want to be first in line. So then, they make money.
My daughter works for Uber, and they also give them like $200 per month to do whatever they want to do with it for Uber, like Uber credit, as well as toothpaste, food, breakfast. Their staff is very, very well taken care of.
Yeah, they are.
That's why I'm amazing.
Oh yeah, I have friends that work there in New York, and they know that ping pong. They have free lunch every day, free lunch. They have buffet. They have free beer,
But they're doing that
wine.
because they can't afford right now to lose their drivers, because their drivers are also cataloging all the research that they need to do the proper algorithms to map the routes for the cars that won't need the drivers 5-10 years ago. Right.
So we're just like rats in the lab for them.
There you go. And that, boys and girls, is the story of Uber.
So
when you set up your separate SCorp or your LLC, and you file your business taxes separately from your personal taxes.
Yeah, you do.
Then your business has to be profitable, though, right? Like you have to have profit rate. You can't have a business that's negative.
Yeah, you can. Uber's been around for 12 years.
I was going to say almost 15.
Almost 15 years. They've never made a profit ever.
I'm just wondering, as a small business, though, how many losses can you take from the government before they think that you're just using this as
long as you can justify it, as long as it's like legitimate.
Expenses to bring you to zero is the net goal, right? Eventually.
I wouldn't say abusing. I say you're.
No.
Oh, you're a user. Okay, a user. Okay.
I wouldn't call it abuse.
Correct. Yep.
So how long can you have a business taking a loss potentially?
Yeah. So
as a small business owner.
Right. So as long as you're not like they don't want you expensing your family vacation 10 times a year, right? Because the laws are written for you to do that. They want you to grow. They want you, that's why the laws are written that way, is because they're like, hey, take advantage of it. This is why it's here. Because I always say, everyone complains to me like, oh, these laws are written for white people, and they're written for the rich. These laws are written for rich people, and all that, and we can't take it. They're like, no, they're written for people that can read or hire someone to read. That's really what.
So an example of that is like, so you can't expense like your family vacation, but so I do locums work as a physician, but every vacation I've been on, at least half of that vacation, I end up playing doctor, whether I want to or not. Exactly. So guess what gets written off on my taxes as an expense for the business? Only if I'm doing that, because my accountant will literally say, well, wait, what did you do on this trip? I'm like, oh, well, someone sprained their ankle and I wrapped it and I had some Voltaren gel. Someone had rotavirus, so they were doing Zofran and I was giving them IV fluids and monitoring them. Someone else got like a little cellulitis, and so I had some antibiotics with me, so we did that. And then there were other trips where I'm like, no, we can't write that off because I was in Carnival and I was just walking around in feathers. I can't write that off. You should have came home and blogged about it like I did. And you're right. You're right. But see, I didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah.
But so as long as you can justify it as an expense for your business, that's the only way that it can be used towards your benefit. If you can't, then all the government cares about is run me my money.
Yeah.
And so as long as you can figure out a way to pay them what you owe, then they don't care really if you're making a profit or you're not.
Yeah.
Everybody else does. I'm just thinking about when you get flagged and audited.
It's
well, it's
how long can you do this before they're like, whoa?
Well, as long as it's not like fraudulent, right? As long as it's not like fraudulent, it's actually justified. Because getting audited is not the worst thing in the world if it's like justified. Now if you're like bogus, then you kind of get scared. But if you're legitimate, you're like, oh, come on, audit, let's go. I got all my receipts, I got everything, I got here, I'm good. Come on. And so it's not the worst thing in the world. And to your point, to answer it more directly, there's no like specific rule that says you can't be not profitable for X amount. It's just all about it's the discretion of the IRS, and as long as you're not abusing that, you're fine.
Like you said, Uber hasn't been a problem.
Yeah, like 15 years. Yeah, and I mean we work all the big ones because they're getting so much money in. They're just trying to grow as much as you can. So to the government, it just looks like they're just like spending money to try to grow. That's it.
There's a question in the back.
Yep.
I was going to say she's all the way.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Brianna Johnson. Okay, so I have a question for someone that's getting into the financial service industry and they're studying to get their securities license because that's what I'm doing. Do you advise someone to, on an entry level, to get the 65 and 63, or what would you say?
Like the series?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what your long-term goal is, right?
Okay.
Because like, if you want to like work at a bank or work somewhere, then they have their own requirements, right? And it depends on what you want to do with those licenses. That's really it. Same with the CPA, same with the CFA, same with Series 7. It just all depends on like what your end goal is. Because I think the investment banks for sure require Series 63 and Series 7, like for sure. And 65, I'm not familiar with 65. But I'm not. It just depends on your what your goal is, really. And I always say the more you get, like the better, right? Because they're not that much different and not super hard and not meant to you can just put the hours in and get them, and then make sure you write all that stuff off because it's part of your professional expenses.
Yeah. So my goal is, of course, I don't want to work at a bank or anything like that. I'm independent and just working in conjunction with another company, a marketing company. So I'm not
like freelancing. So you have your own company basically.
Yeah. I run my own franchise.
And you have your LLC or?
No, not yet. But I've been with a couple of colleagues that are with me. They said that I probably should go that route. I'm freshly new. Like I've been doing it full time for 3 years, but I've just been solidly on one side of the business, and I'm just trying to have a well-balanced business, and instead of just being a life producer selling life insurance, help people with fixed index annuities. I want to help people invest their money, buy term and invest that difference to build generational wealth.
Correct.
Do things of that nature. Something that's not taught to our community. So that's why I'm getting my securities license.
Exactly. To buy and sell securities, you have to have the license.
Yeah. But I'm just like, I don't know if I should get all of that because there's so much to that side. So that's why.
I would say like look into 7 for sure. I know 63, and we can talk offline. I have a bunch of banker friends, and they can run me. They took every test, and I'll say I can tell you. They probably have the book still, so I can tell you which ones they recommend and whatnot. So. Any other questions? I can go straight.
Y'all keep telling me my hair is sticking up. Okay. Am I down? Jesus. Okay. All right. Fair.
All right. So
crisis averted.
All right, so now we know what a company is, right? Company, we talked about LLC, talked about SCorp, talked about SCorp. I mentioned sole proprietorship, right? Those are all companies and things that are in ways you make money.